right, cool. So I'll probably have to run back and forth a little bit. I wanted to share a quick little story, and I do apologize. Chignecto board, where you at? All right, so y'all might have heard this story last year. I was actually invited up to Oxford School to tell a story, and it was broadcast all across Chignecto board. So if you have heard it, I apologize. Hopefully you'll take something a little bit different from it today. A few years ago, my family and I've got an older family. My kids are all older. My oldest is going to be 26 this year. So I guess saying that, I'm really young, right? And we had our kids really, really young. So because of that, we never really got to do the whole vacation thing when our kids were growing up. So now that our kids are all grown up and older, we decided we wanted to go on vacation. So we thought about it, and we're sitting around our house. I'm going to have to keep turning around, I apologize. But we're sitting around our house one day. It was around Christmas time. So this is us right here, right? So on the, I got to explain this family. On the left-hand side, that's my youngest daughter, Kaylin. She went to UPEI for a year. She was actually taking an undergrad in diversity and social justice. I didn't know one existed. If it did, when I was in university, I would have took that instead of international finance. I've had a whole bunch of different careers over the years. Sitting in the rocking chair, that's my oldest daughter, Thomasina. She moved up to Toronto. She's gone to most schools in Nova Scotia. It'll stick. The reason I know that is I got kicked out of Dal twice. And my wife is right behind me there. That's my beautiful wife, Mary, who has been beside me through thick and thin. I remember one time when we moved out to Saskatchewan, rural Saskatchewan, and her whole life has basically been around, where the hell are you taking me? And that's exactly what it was. We pulled into this small town, and I'm talking small rural Saskatchewan. There were actually horses hitched outside of the bar in this town. And standing up there with the beard, that's my son Dakota. And I want to show a new picture here. And the handsome guy sitting down there posing, that's me. But I do want to show you a new picture here. So that's my family. These are my three daughters. Dakota is in the middle. Just over a year ago, she started transitioning male to female, and she has been happier than she's ever been. So we're all sitting around the house, and we decide, you know what would be a great idea if the five of us went on a family vacation to Italy. So we decided we were going to go to Italy for a month over the summertime and take the kids over with us, which was a great idea. And then we started thinking about it a little bit different. We said, you know what would be an excellent idea? What if us and 14 other people went to Italy for a month? 14 family members. So if you learn anything from this talk today, it's never a good idea to go on vacation with 14 family members for a month. It's not a vacation. We tried to dress it up. We called it a family reunion. No, it was just 14 people living in a big old smelly house. There's no way to dress that up. So anyway, we decided we were going to do that. And so this is some of the folks that came with us, all right? That's not my mustache. I used to have a dog with a really, really big furry tail, and I accidentally stepped on it one day. And a little bit of the fur came off, so I decorated myself up a little bit. My daughter there in the middle, you can see her posing. We all know that pose, right? That's Rosie the Riveter. You can see her right in the very center there, posing like this here. That's my girl. She's got a tattoo. Her first tattoo she got on her leg that I drew for her is actually Marge Simpson posing as Rosie the Riveter. She's an amazing girl. So these are the 14 people that came with us. And we got on the flight, and here we go. We go all the way over to Italy, and we land in Rome. So we spent a couple days in Rome, right here. This is an actual picture of the Colosseum, just to prove that we were there. It doesn't look much better than that, actually. Rome is a beautiful city. It's a dirty city, though. And I'm not talking trash and that sort of stuff. I'm actually talking dirt. Cobblestone roads are wonderful in theory. And they used to work really good if you're driving a Chariot or something like that. But when you're driving today's automobiles, we got these things called brakes. And every time you put that on, you know how you got to change your brakes every couple of years? That stuff goes somewhere. And over in Rome, it all goes down into the cracks in between the cobblestone. So as you're walking all day long in 40+ degree heat, you get a little bit sweaty. And down here from the knees down, I don't know if that brake dust is attracted to sweat, but it all sticks to your legs from the knee down. So when I say Rome's a dirty city, that's exactly what I mean. So just to prove that we were actually there, I got a couple pictures. That's us at the Trevi Fountain. I don't know who the guy is on the right-hand side who photobombed us. I love his pose. And he's got that really nice black bag. I got a brown one. Mine was actually a lot nicer. So we're at the Trevi Fountain here. That was gorgeous. We continued to walk around Rome and found a statue. So some of the family members decided they'd pose a little bit. We spent a couple days in Rome, but then it was time to head where we were going. My wife's family is, they're from the Adriatic, about 2.5 hours east of Rome. And that's where we were going to go spend the month. So we booked a villa to stay in, you know. It was, I'm picturing in my mind this beautiful countryside and what it would look like. It was, I thought it was going to be gorgeous, but this was where we were at, 14 people, all right? So when I say villa, this is what I thought I was going to. If I was going to this with 14 people, it all would have been good, right? We would have fit. It would have been fine. But no, we got stuck in that other little tiny place. It was beautiful though. So while we were there, we spent a lot of time at the beach. Just to show you what the beach looks like, this is the area where my wife's family's from. So we spent a lot of time at this beach. The water was gorgeous, 27, 28 degrees, and so clear. Now, I love swimming. It's one of those things that I've always loved to do. I've got pictures of myself at home, 6 months old. My parents throw me into the lake and picking me up afterwards, but it's right off the wharf. I actually have pictures in a life jacket of my father holding me up and down like this in the water. So I've grown up around the water. I love the water. So one day while we were down at this beach, I decided I was going to go for a swim. So I started swimming. And when I get in water, I'm like a Newfoundland dog. Anybody who knows one or has one in their family knows once they hit water, they're gone. And that's exactly how I am when I get out in the water. So I started swimming, and as I'm going, I noticed these rocks beside me, so I've just gone past the breakwater. Thought, oh, you know, that's not too bad. So I just kept going and going and going. And then all of a sudden it got really quiet and very peaceful. And I realized I had probably been swimming for at least an hour. So I stopped and started treading water, and I turned around. These buildings up here, I couldn't see anything. All I saw was water all around me. So, oh crap. If I would have kept going, I probably would have made it to Croatia. So I looked for what way the waves were moving, took a guess, and started following the waves back in. And as I was swimming, these buildings actually started to come into view, so I knew I was going in the right direction. Got in, so I've been swimming for a couple hours now. And I got to the shore, and I was hungry, you know, famished. That was a long swim, like I said, almost to Croatia and back. So I wanted to get some food. Now, we live in Nova Scotia. We all know what beach food's like. It's usually like hot dogs and chips and sand and pop with hornets and wasps in it that sting you every time you try to take a drink. Over in Italy, the beach food is just a little bit different. The beach food actually comes from the beach. This is a seafood salad that I used to eat every day after swimming. You can see the octopus sticking in it there. All this stuff. So what happens is the folks on the beach, before people come down and go swimming, they actually go out in their boats and they catch all this stuff and they bring it back, and that's what they cook for the day on the beach. They don't catch the tomatoes. They actually bring those from home. So I'm sitting here and I'm eating all this stuff, and you know it's so good. But then it starts to turn into evening, so it's time to go back to our great big villa. So I after the evening I head back home. This one here, I wish. Head back home, and I walk into the house. This is a couple weeks after we have been there, and I walk in and this smell hits me. It's not the smell that you'd think from a house full of 14 people. This actually smelled good. So I walk in, and my nephew, he's a cook here in Halifax, and he decided he wanted to make some seafood chowder using local ingredients over there. He thought he'd give it a shot. So I walk in, and there he is cooking this beautiful seafood chowder on the left-hand burner of our stove. and it smells good. So I asked, he asked me, he says, Jude, do you want some of the seafood chowder? And, Thomas, no, you know what? I've actually been down at the beach all day, swam to Croatia, I just had some seafood salad, and I'm really full. So, you know what, I don't want any now, but that smells really good. I'll tell you what you can do, though. If you want to, you can save me some. Put it in a Tupperware jar or something, put it in the fridge, and I'll eat that tomorrow. He says, yeah, no problem. So I decided I was going to go upstairs and lay down for a little bit. Remember, Croatia. So I'm exhausted at this point. So I go upstairs and I open up a book. And I start reading it. I'm flipping through the pages. Did not last long. It might have been about 10 minutes tops, and I was ready for bed. So I put the book down and I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. It's about 6 a.m. And I get up, and we were heading on a day trip for the day. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to run down to the little cafe, have a coffee. Over in Italy, they don't eat eggs and bacon or anything like that for breakfast. It's all cake and sweets. It's a dream place. So I'm going to go down to the cafe, have myself some breakfast. I love that they call it cake breakfast. So I go downstairs and I walk into the kitchen, and I notice on the left-hand burner of that stove was the seafood chowder my nephew was making the night before. So I was angry for a couple reasons. Reason number one, he didn't save any of it for me like I asked. I looked in the fridge, there was nothing there. But the other reason I was angry was because he left the mess for me or somebody else to clean up. So I have a little bit of time before everybody else is going to get up, so I figured, you know what, I'll just clean this mess up. It's not a big deal. So I take the pot, and I carry the pot and I put it over by the sink. I turn the water on to get the water hot, reach underneath the sink and I get the soap. So I got the soap here, I got the water here, I got the pot, and just as I'm taking that pot to put it under the water, I stop myself and I said, wait just a minute. You didn't make this mess. You didn't even eat any of this stuff. None of it was saved for you. You don't got to clean this up. So now I'm feeling right self-righteous about myself because I talked myself out of doing the hard work. I take that pot, put it right on the left-hand burner of that stove, and I go down to the coffee shop, have myself a coffee and some cake. Come up, I pick up the family, and we go for a day trip. We drove and we went down, yeah, that's it the next day. You can see it's not looking as great as it was, right? So I pick up the family, and we head down to Napoli. So we get down there, and as you're driving into Napoli, you go down Pompeii's in the background there. It's really hard to see, but just past the water, just before the water, that's where Pompeii is. So we go down to Pompeii, and we see that, all those pictures that we saw growing up, bodies like this, encased in stone, and all that. It was a really neat place to visit. But then we're looking up, and we see Mount Vesuvius, and we thought, you know what, we want to go up there. So we go, and we drive to the base of the volcano, and they've got these great big, they're like bus tractors that take you halfway up the mountain. So we took those up, and we're looking, and you can still see the rest of the mountain. And they said, no, you got to walk the rest of the way. So all right, we get out and we start walking. It took us 45 minutes to walk to the top, and I'm talking like this. We walked to the top of the volcano, and when we got up there, the view, it was amazing. The smell, it was disgusting. You could still smell the sulfur. There was actually still smoke and steam coming out of the crater of the mountain. So you're sitting here, you're looking down in, and you see this big portion of the mountain that's missing, and then you look in the background and you know where Pompeii was, and that whole top of that mountain covered that area. I still don't know why they built. As you can see, this is an active volcano, and there's still thousands and thousands of people living right at the base of it. So we look in this here, and then I look over and I notice there's a cafeteria out there. Little cafe. Cafes everywhere in Italy, even on the top of volcanoes. So we sit down, and then I start thinking, okay, so what do? Carry everything up? Little smart car drives up the other side of the mountain. Didn't realize you could actually drive all the way to the top. But that's okay. So we sat down, we had something to eat, drinking wine from some grapes that were growing right on the side of the mountain. We had a great day, but then it was time to head back to our villa. So it took us a couple hours to get there. We got lost a few times. But when we got home, I walked into the kitchen, and I was surprised just a little bit, because there was my sister-in-law cooking supper for everybody on the right-hand burner of the stove. Well, on the left-hand burner of the stove, was still sitting that seafood chowder from the night before, 24 hours later, and it was not smelling good. I look at her and I say, Franca, how can you sit there and cook supper for us on the right-hand burner of that stove, while on the left-hand burner of that stove, right under your nostril, is supper from the night before? I know you can smell it. And she looked at me without missing a beat, and she said, well, I didn't have any of that last night. Did you have any of that last night? No, I didn't have any of it. Good. You want some spaghetti and meatballs? Yes, I do. So I sat down, and we ate the pasta that she had cooked for supper that night. I ate mine, I washed everything up, you know, we're feeling right self-righteous about ourselves. I wash it, I clean my bowl, I put it away, I go upstairs to read for a little bit. 5 o'clock the next morning, I wake up. Now, I probably don't have to tell you this, but if you're living in a house where a bowl of seafood chowder has been sitting on the left-hand burner of your stove for over 35 hours, you don't need an alarm to wake up. That stuff's going to wake you up. What's going to happen is the smell that has grown legs overnight inside that pot is going to crawl up out of the pot, onto the floor, across the kitchen, through the hallway, up the stairs, down the hallway, and underneath that little tiny crack on your door, it's going to go. And it's going to find that thing on the face of your nose, on your face called a nose, with the precision of a laser, and you're going to be awake. And I was awake, and I was angry, because I knew what was waiting for me on that left-hand burner of the stove. So I burst open the door to my bedroom, and I'm running downstairs. I am so angry. I live with 14 people, and I can't find any of them, let alone my nephew who made the mess 2 days ago. So I run down the stairs. I go into the kitchen, I look across the kitchen onto the left-hand burner of that stove, and this trip was 4 years ago. And I still, to this day, I looked across, I saw the seafood chowder, and that seafood chowder was looking right back at me. It was that moment that I learned one of life's most important lessons. It didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter that I was the one that made that mess, that I didn't have any of that seafood chowder, that I didn't benefit from it in any way, that I didn't give permission for my nephew to do it. The only thing that mattered was I was tired of living in that funk. And when we get tired of living in the funk, we're going to get busy cleaning it up. Not because we did it, not because we're guilty, but because we're here. And we're the only ones in a position to clean that funk up. Now, that funk I'm talking about is not seafood chowder. That funk exists throughout society. That funk is in the racial world, it's in the gender world. It's all of these things that have happened before, and we're still dealing with that mess right now. And when we get busy cleaning up that funk, that's when we're going to start to see it change. See, when we were all going to school, we were taught this concept of inertia. And I'm sure most of us probably remember the definition. Inertia is the ability of a body in motion to stay in perpetual motion until a force of equal or greater strength is pushed against it in the opposite direction. Now, our teachers all taught us that, and that's totally true in the physical world. But what our teachers didn't tell us is that it's also true in the social world. It's also true in the racial world, in the gender world, in the world of sexuality, in the world of abilities and disabilities. What happens in one generation continues to affect the next generation and the next generation and the next generation until a force of equal or greater strength is pushed against it in the opposite direction. Just to give you an idea what I do have sound here. Give you an idea what inertia looks like. It looks just like this. That's a cheese run. I don't know why people do that to themselves. So I guess one of the biggest things that we have to understand is one of the difference between guilt and responsibility. Because when we start to have these conversations around any of these inequities that have happened in the past, we tend to get caught up on relating the past to the present, right? It's that whole difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt is what you feel for your own actions. Responsibility is what you take because of who you are. So we have to, when we're talking about any of these social inequities, we have to move away and try to stay away from this area of guilt and move into an area of responsibility, because we are the only ones that are in a position to start cleaning up that funk that's been affecting our society for many, many generations. So that's just a quick little story I wanted to share with everybody. I've been sharing that story for quite a while now. And I hope you take a little bit from this besides a bunch of people chasing cheese down a hill. The main point, don't ever go on vacation with 14 family members, right? Tara, thank you very much. I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon, and I know I'm standing in between lunch, so I'm going to get out of the way so that y'all can figure out the lunch thing. And the funky chowder. Check the Twitter feed. There might not have been any break food, but Steve had some chicken wings up there. There's a picture of them up on there.
So thank you, Jude, for your storytelling skills and putting reconciliation into context with us. And we really appreciate that you're always willing to give up your time and share your funny stories, and then also heartfelt stories too that mean something to all of us.
Well, it was either that or stay back at the office and try to do an annual report, so I'd much rather.
Awesome.